And hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. The chat room is live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
I'm Clifford Broadway.
I'm Justin Sewell.
And we're coming to you live via satellite from London. This is Robin Leach with Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong bloody show.
No.
That's not the show you tuned in for. Ladies and gentlemen, actually, switch the channels. Jeep. Actually, we're here for Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Silmarillion, and J.R.R. Tolkien, Worlds and Wonderment, and, of course, all the news that's fit to print from the OneRing.net worldwide web community of Tolkien fans.
And that's a key phrase.
Welcome.
The news that's fit to print and
Welcome.
the rumors that shouldn't be printed at all. Boy, do we have a great show for you today.
Boy, howdy.
We've had the most activity in the last 7 days since our last show. We've got updates from the showrunners, the directors, the writers, the cast. We've got pictures of the cast together.
The cast doing delightful things that cast members do. That is, filming and enjoying themselves at the same time. Isn't that a lovely thing to see?
It's
that they're
lovely.
Enjoying themselves filming.
I don't know what happened
the new
in
Middle-earth series.
I don't know what happened
wonderful.
in the last 7 days, but in the last 7 days, we've just had a downpour of information, confirmation, and
raining outside.
corrections. And
Corrections,
we're going to
yes.
go through all of that. It's great to see a lot of our regulars in the chat room. I see Brennan. I see Caitlin. I see Princess Toy Nerd. Great to see you, Andrew.
There's Brennan Moss.
Sarah Draper,
Hello,
who
everyone.
is coming to L.A.
Eric with a K.
in a few months. Sarah, we can't wait to have you back on the show. Sit
Yes,
with us
actually,
at the bar
we have-
and talk with
We
us.
probably have my stepmom, Darlene. She's Darlene Broadway. She's probably watching all the way from Palm Bay, Florida. Bless your heart. I know my family is watching. It's funny when your family tunes in and then they sneak on screen for 2 seconds and they say something and they disappear and they're gone for the rest of this. I love it when they do that to me. They do it all the time. And you know what? There's Pipskay. There's our lovely friends. Hello, Tamika. Arne, hello. Well,
Arne in the chat
look,
room
I've
says
got-
hi. Tamika says hi. Donuts say hi.
You know it's a good day when
but-
Clifford brings St. Patrick's Day donuts.
St. Patrick's Day is next Tuesday, my friend.
It doesn't matter. We're starting early.
You know what today is?
They have the Shamrock Shake available, the green minty green
I know.
shake.
I haven't
at
missed
Mickey
it.
D's. Oh my gosh.
So next week
we're
we're going to
starting
have an
early.
all green episode. Cliff, you have to wear green. I will
believe
find
I'll be wearing
a
green. Should I
but
do like full face paint green? Really, like
today is March 10th, and if you spell that out, M-A-R 10, it spells Mario. Today is Super Mario Day.
Mario.
And it made me remember the Lord of the Rings game on Super Nintendo, which hardly anyone played. If you go to YouTube and search for Lord of the Rings, Super Nintendo, SNES, you will find amazing playthroughs of a very rare Lord of the
funny.
Rings games
That's
with
funny.
character designs that are unique to the game. So it's.
Do you know how funny that is that you have
is
such a strong memory
Super
of that?
It is Super Mario Day.
Super Mario Day here, and there has to be a Tolkien connection, of course.
Michael Webster says, I'm finally awake for a stream. Hello.
Yes, hello, welcome aboard.
Megan says, hey guys, from Birmingham.
Hey.
Hello, Megan.
Hello, Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
City of brotherly love.
then-
And pretty soon we're going to get our friend from Wales. I'm sure Kieran Owen will join us, the young gentleman from Wales. And then we've got our other friends in England who stay up late sometimes.
That's
you know?
right.
We do. Welcome from all around
And
the world.
Brennan Mars says he'll be coming into town this summer.
It's
You
gonna be
guys,
very exciting.
everyone can join the show here at Scum and Villainy Cantina
Yes.
right in Hollywood.
You could be here physically in person, or you could come through on a team of little atomi
But we'd
drawn
love
over
to
men's
have you
noses.
here.
Well,
you can
hold
sit
on.
in one of the
I'm
booths.
quoting Shakespeare now. Did you hear me just now? Drawn by a team of little atomi over men's noses as they lie asleep. I'm doing Mercutio, that big monologue that he has from Romeo and
We
Juliet.
ain't got time for
and
big
you're getting-
monologues.
oh my God, this guy, I love this man. Anyways, here's the thing. You can be here in person. He's right. You can have a cocktail, you can have a mocktail, appetizers, and join us live on the show. Or better yet, come through Skype with us because we can do picture-in-picture wherever you are around the world. Can we not?
That's right.
Yes, we can. So that's good to have you guys on
And
with us.
we invite all you fans from around the world to come to Hollywood to Scum and Villainy. We invite all of you writers and producers at Amazon to come
Yeah.
to Hollywood and
Since
join
you're
the
taking
show.
a break, evidently, and
And
since you're not going to
Since
be...
you got a little bit of free time in the
Since
next
you-
couple months.
And you know what, Jennifer? Hey, let's go straight to the top, you know?
Let's go straight to the top. Cliff,
Jennifer Salke, you, again, this is my 7th or 17th invitation. Ms. Jennifer, come, join us and sit on this lovely little hot seat, and we will talk and riff about the best of Tolkien and what your plans are for helping this team come together and make a wonderful Second Age of Middle-earth series. Do you know what?
Jennifer Salke is the production head at Amazon.
That is
She's
true.
the studio boss.
For those who don't
that
know.
is overseeing this. But Cliff, we've got so much news to go through today. Let's just jump
Thank
right
you, Henry.
into it.
Thank you, Henry.
As we closed the show last week,
Big hello to Henry Hertz in the
big
chat room.
confirmation and deadline that Maxim Baldry, one of the first casting rumors, is confirmed. The contract has finally been signed.
That made a lot of fans happy.
He agreed to a number that they gave him. He agreed to a schedule that they booked him for,
Yeah.
and the contract is signed. This
And
is
many
one of the leads.
And many fan dreams came true the moment that he signed on that paper, because he was always well suited. In the fan conversation, he was very well suited
Yes.
for this series.
Does he
So
look
that's very good.
Númenórean to you?
Indeed, he does.
He looks like
He-
the line of Aragorn that we've seen. He looks like a long descendant of the Second Age, the line of Númenor.
Can I say he satisfies the itch that you'd get from that other actor from Rogue One?
Diego Luna.
No, the other one. Yeah,
Riz
Riz Ahmed.
Ahmed.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Riz
think,
Ahmed,
I think
yeah.
that Maxim Baldry scratches that itch for having Riz Ahmed on board.
Riz Ahmed.
You think? I think. Take a look. Go back to that.
Let's go back to that.
Let's go. Take a look. Do you see? Maybe call me crazy, but if I was thinking all along, and I have been, I'll admit.
Yes.
I have been thinking Riz Ahmed, Númenórean prince, all this time. And then here he is, but it's not. It's Maxim Baldry.
And he's
who's
great.
filling it. He is great. He's great. It's
In the show years and years.
That's a very good
Hey,
get.
hello from the UK. Hello from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Buenos Aires.
Hey, speaking of Argentina, that
know
is
what?
where our
I
king
love it.
Aragorn is from. Viggo Mortensen, raised in Argentina. Born, I believe, in Denmark. Raised in Argentina. And then moved to the U.S. when he was like 10 or 12 and didn't speak a lick of English. He grew up speaking Spanish fluently, Viggo Mortensen. And one of the reasons Aragorn has such a unique dialect of the English dialect is he is a native Spanish speaker. And there's a little bit of, it's like an otherworldly...
He's of Scandinavian stock.
Yes.
But of
A
Spanish.
linguist,
Yeah.
a Spanish linguist.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And do you know what a great photographer he is? He is such an artist.
And an artist and a writer and a painter.
And a painter and a poet. Viggo Mortensen, he is the all-time Renaissance man from the Lord of the Rings cast.
Well, we're going to talk about
Can I
him.
tell you what? I would be somewhat heartbroken if they didn't do those flashbacks that we've been joking about for months and months. Do you know how many times fans have come on board? And a lot of people have all had the same... There's a synergy, perhaps, that people would like to use that framing device of there is older Viggo, older King Telcontar.
Yes.
King Elisar.
Yes.
Who was once called a Telcontar before he became King Elisar. Let me
Yes.
correct that. I'm going to correct my nomenclature. But there he is, opening up and telling stories of the great past of the Númenórean lords that were his scions.
That'd be a good bookend to the show.
His forefathers. Would that not be the ultimate wonderful thing? As good an idea as it would be having Samwise Gamgee, multiple mayor of the Shire, actually write down stories in the Red Book.
Yeah,
both of these framing devices are extraordinary. I know we're not going to see them, but
it would be interesting.
we would love it.
Yes.
I know.
Cliff.
Fan fantasy.
So
fan
not only
fantasy.
did they confirm Maxim Baldry right as our show ended last week, but the
He's great,
the very next night, J.A. Bayona, the director of Lord of the Rings, the pilot, and the setter of the feeling of the new Lord of the Rings universe, posted the first picture of the set. It is the top of a tree, and I thought this was written especially for you, Cliff, because he says...
Yes.
the top of a tree, the light at the top of the tree, it made a strange cloud from Miyazaki movie. Cliff, you are a
Yes.
huge fan of Miyazaki. You're probably #1 passion besides Lord of the Rings is Miyazaki.
The truth is that
And
Mr. Bayona is incredibly perceptive, because you will not find any Miyazaki film that does not have stunning clouds in a wide shot, a wide establishing shot of sometimes pillowy, soft, and inviting, but sometimes they're wind-driven, wind-swept, and dangerous. Whatever they are, Miyazaki always has these incredible backdrops of clouds across all of his films. You will not, even Ponyo, which deals with marine life and the sea, still dominated by clouds in the sky. That's Miyazaki. And how wonderful that Mr. Bayona was tuned in to my favorite animation director.
Why would he mention Miyazaki of all things in the entire universe? And you
I know why.
had just
I know
spoken just mere hours before about your passion.
As any great director, he's speaking like a great visualist.
Yes.
That's why. Mr. Bayona, look, take a look at A Monster Calls and tell me that Bayona himself is not a great visualist. Because he is. He's very, very capable. I'm excited by his energy.
Yes.
But
I'm excited by his visual style.
Yes.
We're going to get a darker Middle Earth that almost what we expected with Guillermo del Toro, the Spanish influence of Middle Earth. It was determined to happen and is now happening with Spanish director J.A. Bayona.
The thing is, I would like to see him do what Lethierry did for the Age of Resistance.
That's right.
And direct all 10 episodes in the entire season, full on, and run the ship entirely. That's kind of one of
Dark Crystal.
One of the reasons why Dark Crystal Age of Resistance actually gelled was because it had a command brain center in their director, Lethierry, who did everything from the top down, even did the camera work, holding the Steadicam.
He was in charge.
It
was his show.
But wouldn't it be great if Bayona didn't just do one episode and then not come back?
It's quite
if
possible.
If he did all of them in a row.
It's quite possible.
For the sake of consistency for the series, you know?
But we don't know. They just want to get the pilot right. So
again,
Cliff,
fan speculation.
As soon as I saw director of Lord of the Rings post this and call out Miyazaki, I thought they are doing right by Cliff.
It couldn't make. You know,
this
could
is
not have made
laser
me.
targeted content for you. And then
that's micro targeted
for
me.
So
yes.
just a couple short days later.
But maybe you know what? There's a huge Venn diagram where lots and lots of ringers who adore the pictorial world of Tolkien also get that fix from Miyazaki, and they love both creators. They love them both.
So just a couple days later, and again, after this is our first official photo from the set of Lord of the Rings, even though you can't see anything. Just a few short days later, we get our first group photo of the cast of Lord of the Rings. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your cast of Lord of the Rings, the Second Age, the story of Numenor, potentially the story of Sauron, and the forging of the Rings of Power. And there's just so much. It's crazy that everything we talked about last week, in just 7 short days, we've gotten all this content. Look at this photo.
This is new stuff that just got posted since our show.
This is everybody that is currently on set. It was posted by one of the lead actresses, Nazanin Boniadi, who speaks multiple languages, and she is one of my favorite additions to the cast. Look at this beautiful. They were running a 5K, a charity 5K for Amnesty International, and here they are at the end. Looks like at the beginning of the race, maybe, because everyone, not a lot of people are dripping with sweat. But there's Ismail, and there's Simon, and oh man, there's just everybody's here. This is the cast. This is Lord of the Rings right here.
There's young Stark.
There's young Stark right there.
He is.
That's your cast. Everybody, take a good look. Follow Nazanin Boniadi on Instagram and like this photo.
To answer you,
get used to this cast. this is what Middle Earth looks like now.
Yes, get used to these faces. To answer you in the Facebook chat, Bruno Moore, yeah, we're taking a look at these images that were just posted in this past week, correct?
Yeah, there's so much, and we're going to talk about why we're getting so much content. We're going to get to that in a second.
We're going to get to that in a second.
So it's just amazing that all of this stuff
they are
just
still finishing.
Came out.
They're finishing filming this first episode, which is what you would call the pilot, right?
They want to get it. They want to get the feeling right.
They're actively.
The tone of the show is so important.
Yeah,
We've talked about this many times.
Yes,
the tone of the show, the fidelity to Tolkien. They want to make sure that
fidelity to Tolkien is primarily
right.
important. Yes.
Yes.
Let us remind the audience again. Yes.
So there's a lot going on, and Cliff. So that was our first picture of the cast, and then
no, we're not getting it backwards, Bruno. Like this picture of the entire cast.
We've got a lot to talk about, Bruno. We're going to get into a lot of what you want to talk about in a second.
I'll just simply answer that they're still actively filming.
They're still actively filming right now.
There they are. They're actively filming this episode. Like
Look,
I just said.
We've got another picture posted by Simon Merrells of the three of the main male actors of Lord of the Rings. That is young Ned Stark from Game of Thrones.
Indeed it is.
That is Ismael Cruz Cordova, and that in the middle is Simon Merrells, who has got such a rugged look. I believe he was in the show Rome. We've talked about the cast on a couple previous episodes.
Yes.
And explained where you have seen these people before. And this is the look of Lord of the Rings.
Indeed it is.
Now, Cliff, do you remember the first set photos of the cast, not from the set? Do you remember the cast photos from Lord of the Rings when we saw a mohawked Legolas?
Very young little.
And we saw
little Orlando Bloom.
Purple
with his
hair, and we saw
young little 19-year-old Frodo, little Elijah Wood, who's just fresh out of high school.
And do you remember?
Elijah Wood,
they were in a
God.
surfing competition? There were pictures posted in
yes,
2000.
The surfing, yes, indeed.
You guys must remember if you guys have been with us since 1999, 20 years of thewandering.net. But we got our hands on some photos in the 1999-2000 era of Legolas and the Hobbits surfing. They were at a surfing competition in New Zealand, and there's a shirtless, mohawked Orlando Bloom, and everyone's like, that does not look like the elf that I expect. And you had shaved heads all around of Frodo and Merry and Pippin, and everyone was like, okay, what's going on? It didn't look like anything. The cast of Lord of the Rings, when they were out of costume, they didn't look anything like their characters because they had wigs, they had big furry fake feet, they had big overcoats that made them look small.
Yes.
What was the reaction, Cliff, when we first saw those photos of a mohawked Lord of the Rings actor? Was there a little concern that, oh boy, what have they done?
Yeah, everybody who lacked imagination then had the same concern that those who lack imagination have today. They're looking at actors without even thinking that they do go into latex for hours and costumes and makeup and wigs effects.
He
for
was
hours
Crassus in Spartacus.
So he wasn't in Rome. He was in Spartacus. I think
he was in both, right? I think that. So Simon
Merrill,
I think was Crassus, but you guys in the chat room can check that out. Kaylin, Kaylin has been with us since 2001 or 2002. Thank you so much for your continued support. Samantha in the chat room says, the guy playing Aragorn looked the same, in and out of character at all time. Look, you better believe, Viggo took it seriously.
He slept with his sword at night.
He slept with his sword.
Yes. When Stuart Townsend wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah.
By comparison, you know?
That's right.
Oh, hold on.
We got it. I'll get it.
We're going to call on the hotline. This is the OneRing.net hotline.
Hi, who's calling?
Hi, it's Arna. I have a question.
Yes.
A cast question. The cast looks awesome. I like the cast, but who's going to be Anatar in the new series? I don't see on IMDb for Anatar.
Wouldn't we all like to know? We'll find out as soon as they tell us. But is it possible that Maxim Baldry might be in that role? We don't know yet.
I'm still kind of rooting for Benedict Cumberbatch, but
Right on, right on.
I mean, am I to understand?
Days, and we don't know what these characters look like in costume. So I like how this cast looks right now, as is from what I've seen. I like it.
I'm sure you do. I think we all do. I mean, it's a shame Alan Lee's not on board and wondering who's going to be the new Galadriel. But
well, we know who's going to be the new Galadriel, and the blonde girl that was first announced as joining the cast is young Galadriel. I don't recall her name right now.
I'm going to pull up her name right now.
Yeah. But I'll show you the picture right
any
now.
new Elrond? How about Elrond? Are there any rumors of who's going to be the new Elrond?
There are rumors, and I believe they're still trying to cast that role. The rumors are that young Ned Stark is the new young Elrond.
We're making a guess.
We're making a guess right now. I'm going to point them out on the stream right now.
We're making a guess because of the symmetry of his face, you know, his features in general.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate your call. I appreciate your input, and all opinions are welcome here at the One Ring.
Did you meet the cast and crew in person?
Not yet. Nope, they're
Oh, I see.
in New Zealand.
Well, hope. All right.
We hope.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye. All right. We're gonna show you. We're gonna point them out right here. Okay.
I would love to have a surprise appearance of Benedict Cumberbatch. That would be so awesome. But
Look,
we might get the general idea.
This is Galadriel.
That they're going in a very different direction.
This is confirmed.
And not using other actors from the previous 6 films.
This is correct.
But
so
I'm
like
pointing
the
idea,
out
though.
That girl on the right
Cross-pollinate the world.
is Galadriel. This is confirmed, factual, not rumors. This is Galadriel, and the rumor is 2 heads down, right there, with the big smile and the big hair, the young Ned Stark. Rumor is he is young Elrond. So right there.
That's Robert Aramayo.
Robert Aramayo.
Aramayo.
Those 2 actors on the right are your young Galadriel and potentially your young Elrond. Now, Cliff.
Then there was Morfydd Clark. Is that her?
Morfydd Clark is the younger actor. So Simon Merrells posted this from the same event. But just the day before, Simon Merrill posted this. Now, Cliff, tell me, what book is this chapter from of the Noldor in Beleriand?
Well, that's from the Silmarillion.
Why is a Lord of the Rings actor reading the Silmarillion? What is in this chapter? What is this chapter about?
This is a chapter in the
And why is he drawing in the Silmarillion?
Because, all right, now this was a posting that made people actually raise their eyebrows and say, what? Why is the OneRing.net claiming that maybe they're making a Silmarillion series? What he's doing is he's doing research. As an actor should do.
He should.
He's reading the larger histories of Middle-earth, even those that are outside the bounds of what are relative to the show that he is doing, because that chapter influences so much of what happens. I mean,
what is in this chapter? I believe in this chapter we hear about young Galadriel and the choices she makes.
Well, using the term young Elrond or young Galadriel is relative to these.
You're getting out of it on a technicality.
No.
What is this chapter about?
Thousands and thousands of years old. There's a lot going on in that chapter, and that explores after the Oath of Feanor and his younger sons to reclaim the Silmarils that Morgoth had stolen. After the kinslaying, when elves took blade against blade with their fellow elves and killed one another.
Yes.
And they were taking the ships to go to Beleriand. After all the tumult way after all that stuff, because that's early. That's what you call front end material early in the Silmarillion.
Okay.
You see, this is chapter 15. Yes.
Of the Silmarillion.
And this is how many of the great elven lords settled into the lands of Beleriand. And Beleriand was the great landmass on the continent that extended beyond the westernmost shores of Middle-earth. But those lands were all to be sunk under the waves and destroyed. All of Beleriand was destroyed and was off the coast of Middle-earth later on in the Second and Third Age. So in that Second Age map, where we've seen, LOTR on Prime use that Second Age map as a key element of their marketing campaign, we should understand that this actor is reading about stuff that happened way before that map, when those lands of Beleriand are indeed, after the War of Wrath, sunk under the waves
Is
of the Great
Olmo
Sea.
Turgon, the character mentioned in this screenshot, is he a character mentioned in the appendices of Lord of the Rings? Is Olmo Turgon?
No, that's two different names. Ulmo is one of the lords of the Valar.
Okay.
And Turgon is one of the Noldor.
Okay.
Two different characters. You need to read that whole sentence.
I will.
It's like, under the guidance of Ulmo, Turgon was able to blank, blank, blank. See,
Now,
it.
Leith Skilling in the chat room has just said what a lot of fans were saying on Facebook and Twitter this week, that Simon Merrells could play, and he looks like and would be appropriate to play Círdan the shipwright.
It's pronounced Círdan.
Of course.
Círdan
Of course.
the shipwright.
You're just going to correct me on everything because
No, I have
I'm
to
just
say,
a
no, wait.
average person.
No. Follow the rules of Elven linguistics. It's very simple.
Is he Elvish? Círdan?
Celeborn is not pronounced Celeborn. There's a reason why.
Okay.
Celtic is not pronounced Celtic. It's pronounced Celtic. There is a reason why.
Okay.
It's simple linguistic
So let me
fundamental.
ask you this,
The
Cliff.
letter, when you have a letter C before any vowel sound, it's a hard K,
It's
and
a
that's
hard
that's
K.
why it's Círdan
So does
the shipwright.
this actor look like Círdan the shipwright?
Certainly could. Círdan the shipwright
Is this what you imagined, a rugged individual?
But Círdan is way, way, way older.
This
way
guy
older.
looks way older than those other two actors.
Círdan as a character is thousands of years older than, is so much older than the other characters. If I'm not mistaken, Círdan may have been one of the very, very first elves to awaken on the shores of Cuivienen, when the elves, the firstborn of children of Ilúvatar, awoke by those shores.
Okay.
I'm going to look that up. Let me look that up. I think Círdan might be from the very firstborn.
Let me ask
the
you
very
this.
First.
Is Círdan the shipwright mentioned in the appendices of Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, actually, Círdan is a character in the Lord of the Rings.
So
He's
the
in the
Amazon
film.
officially has rights to the character Círdan,
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings.
of course,
Círdan the shipwright.
Círdan the shipwright is in all the appendices of the Lord of the Rings.
So
and
Amazon,
he's
you
in
have the
book.
rights.
Yeah.
The actor looks the part.
Yeah.
He's reading chapters that are loosely related to the character. This could be Círdan the shipwright. Let's take a look again. What do you guys think in the chat room? A lot of people in the chat room are saying, "Yep, that looks like him." Círdan the shipwright, right in the middle, next to
now,
potentially young Aragorn.
It's good to see you in the chat, Henry Hertz. And yes, it's not the years, it's the mileage. And it is the mileage. The thing is that he is written by Professor Tolkien as being the only Noldorin elf character with a beard.
And
none of the other elves have facial hair. You
Okay.
notice no facial hair, no beards.
well, that's a clean
Now-
face to apply a fake
but
beard to.
you could also notice that
He is very clean shaven.
when Peter Jackson gave us Círdan, who's in the opening shots of Fellowship
Yeah.
and in the closing shots of the Grey Havens at the end of Return of the King,
Yeah.
he's standing there. Guess what? He's not bearded. Peter and Weta designed his character as not having facial hair.
But
Tolkien describes him in the book as being bearded.
And
Which is highly unusual for
Skilling,
elves.
again, wonderful that you're joining us, says Círdan is mentioned in the chapter that Simon Merrells is reading.
Is he indeed?
He is. So reading
Yes,
between
indeed,
all
that-
of the lines.
Indeed, that makes sense that he would be mentioned in that exact chapter.
Yeah. So Cliff, we've talked about potentially young Aragorn on the right, potentially Círdan the shipwright in the middle,
Wouldn't that be
and
wonderful?
on the left, that is actor Ismael Cruz Cordova. I believe he hails from Puerto Rico. He speaks multiple languages. This is from his Instagram. Cliff, we have a Star Wars actor in the mix. Looks like he is from the Mandalorian.
From the Mandalorian, yes.
He is the purple guy from the Mandalorian, and he has not posted anything on Instagram from Lord of the Rings. So he's being a very, very tight-lipped about what's going on. So it's exciting. People in the chat room are doing. John Ruddy, one of the foremost YouTube scholars of history. I am glad you're in the chat room.
Hello, John.
John Ruddy has
Good
been
to
on
have
the
you here.
show. He came all the way to LA. I believe
he did.
On the recommendation of our own Kelly Rice. John Ruddy says Círdan was one of the ring bearers. When Gandalf landed in the Grey Havens, Círdan gives Gandalf his ring, saying, "You're going to need this."
In fact, it is. It is.
Oh my gosh, this is a huge character.
It is Narya, the Ring of Fire. So if we get to see,
What?
if we get to see,
Simon Merrill could be a ring bearer?
yeah, if we get to see Círdan as a lead character, that
Woo!
would be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. He would be an incredibly good backbone character to have throughout the Second Age, because he was
And
in
he
the
has
First
got
Age,
the chops.
and he was in the Third Age through the War of the Ring as well.
Yes.
So how about this? The idea that we ultimately could see the forging of the Rings of Power means that by the time we get to season 5, if Amazon Studios actually gets us to season 5, and we might actually get to the forging of the rings, then Simon Merrill will actually get the Ring of Fire that he will in the future bequeath to Gandalf.
There it is.
Not in this
This is a
storyline.
major character.
Yeah, but we know it wouldn't happen in this storyline.
Elven ring bearer, yes.
Why
I
do-
should qualify it. Elven ring
We're
bearer.
going to be seeing the part where Círdan might get the ring, and Galadriel would get the Ring of Adamant,
That's right.
and Elrond, the Lord of Rivendell, inherits from.
Wait, so we have all 3 ring bearers, elven ring bearers,
Yeah.
potentially cast
Yeah.
in that photo we just showed?
Vilja, which was carried by Elrond, and before him, I believe Celebrimbor may have given it to Gil-galad. I might be mistaken. Maybe Gil-galad then gave it to Elrond, but Galadriel also had Nenya, the Ring of Adamant, and Círdan had Narya, the Ring of Fire. Narya, which was then given from Círdan to Gandalf, or Mithrandir, as he was named by the elves. So, you know,
Now
I'll have
click-
to look, but this is intriguing.
So
having
quick-
Círdan and Galadriel
And young Elrond?
and Elrond, these characters would be the 3 bearers of the 3 elven rings.
We've got them.
They would be so cool, but
This is
again,
it.
we're speculating.
We're
and
speculating,
we're wildly
but come
speculating.
on. We're reading through all the lines because that's what we do as fans.
as
Now,
it-
Cliff, you know what else will we do as fans?
We-
Sometimes we speculate. Yes, last week I speculated hard. I held my Palantir in my hand, and the Dark Lord Sauron maybe showed me things that had not come to pass.
Okay, the Dark Lord
And-
was
and
in
the-
your Palantir and
and
clouded your visions.
Don't they warn us that the Palantirs do not show truth? They show you what the person on the opposite end of the Palantir wants you to see.
Most often, yes. The
So-
person who could manipulate the Seeing Stones in such a way used them, and that's how Sauron used them. Yes.
So
that's true.
we may have
That is
been
true.
manipulated a little bit in last week's bombastic show. So I appreciate everybody on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube calling us out for that. And it was a reminder that we have a duty to be better, validate what the Palantir says. We cannot take little Sauron's Palantir as gospel.
I'm going to step aside
And-
and let Justin.
And to that end, last week was a bombastic show, and I can show you here right now.
A bombastic show.
Jennifer Hutchison, who is the lead writer on Amazon's Lord of the Rings, shut us down so hard and so complete by saying, yes, I am working on the Lord of the Rings series for Amazon. She is a writer. Every word is chosen carefully. That is a present tense verb.
Yes, it is present
It
tense.
is an active present tense of a sentence.
Yes, it is.
She does not have any say in hiring or casting. She cannot read or listen to any suggestions of where to take the story. She will block anybody that attempts to give her story ideas because it's a legal liability. So
Indeed it is.
all
A
we
legal
can
liability.
do is follow her and be a part of the conversation and listen to her.
And I'm glad that she has joined us to be part of the conversation
and so
like this.
Jennifer Hutchinson, thank you for clarifying everything. And, after last week's bombastic news and rumors and Palantir speculation, I have to say I apologize to the writers that are writing Lord of the Rings. Didn't mean to discount your efforts, your past efforts, your current efforts, and your potential future efforts. And we have a little more clarity that we're going to get to in a couple minutes of just where things land. Now, Cliff,
thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was extraordinarily on the inside lane of journalistic integrity. On the inside lane, well done. You deserve a donut.
In 1
Justin, you
week.
earned a donut. And you know what?
Thank you so much.
To the writers of Amazon, I also apologize for co-hosting in that mischief because I got kind of pulled along with the excitement of it all.
Sauron the Deceiver is ever present. Now, Cliff.
Now, issuing an apology also means the apology donut. So here we offer this donut to you, Jennifer Hutchinson, and to other writers.
There you go.
And Jennifer Salke, anybody who wants to come and share a donut. This is the humble pie donut. This is the humble donut. And it is offered humbly because it's the peace offering. You know what they say?
They are not all accounted for, the lost seeing stones.
Yes, that's right. They're not all accounted for. If we break bread together, let's break bread together.
Let's break
Amazon Studios, like good hobbits, and we'll have some second breakfast together. Let's have second breakfast together, and we'll talk it out.
I have to say that we have heard radio silence from Amazon ever since July of last year when they released that video showing people. And then we got a press release with photoshopped photos of the actors, not even together, and no mention of their passion for Tolkien or anything like that. We've had zero information, and there has been a void that many people are trying to fill. Isn't it interesting?
True.
Ever since last week's big bombastic show that we have updates from J.A. Bayona on the set. We have photos of the cast together. We have the writers confirming that they're still working. So whatever happened in the last 7 days, something happened last Tuesday that has triggered a lot of goodwill. Please, Amazon, we apologize for stirring the pot, but please keep it up. Please. Keep allowing Bayona to post pictures from the set, and keep allowing the actors showing their camaraderie on Instagram.
Don't hold back. Yeah, we'd like to see them having a good time, and living their lives and being, creative partners on what is a wonderful collaborative effort. It should be thought of in those terms at all times.
Cliff,
and
I have a huge...
Since we don't know any better, we're going to assume the best.
Yes.
We will assume the best.
Yes, and your best work is being put forward right now.
And you guys are working it out. You're making it work. Maybe a hiatus is a good thing. We don't know, but eventually...
But let's talk about that in a sec. Cliff, there was other things that happened this week on Twitter.
What else happened?
A little background. Brian Cogman was the third in command of Game of Thrones.
The third head of the dragon.
Lore master, the third head of the dragon.
The third head of the
lore
dragon.
master of Game of Thrones. When season 7 and 8 was not well received by fans, he got a lot of vitriol, and he got off Twitter. Brian Cogman swore off Twitter after the negativity.
He got out of the kitchen because he couldn't take the heat.
He couldn't take the heat, and he's been off Twitter for years. And look what happened this last week after our bombastic show. Brian Cogman returns to Twitter and says, "Let's try this again." And do you know who that reply is saying, "Don't do it, B"? That is showrunner of Lord of the Rings, Patrick McKay, the guy in charge,
Showrunner
the god of all gods,
and co-creator.
the co-creator,
And showrunner.
the guy in charge of everybody, the guy who hires the directors. That is Patrick McKay, joking along with Brian Cogman, who epically returns to Twitter. This is huge, and I find it hard to believe that it's coincidence that after all this ruckus was brought up this week, that suddenly Brian Cogman is back in the mix.
Do you know what? I'm looking forward to interviewing you, Brian. Come join us on the show and we'll talk.
Let's talk lore. We don't have to talk about the show. We don't have to talk about anything that you're doing.
That's exactly right. We don't have to break your non-disclosure agreement.
No.
We can talk about other fantasy.
Everything else.
Other work. We can talk about the general...
Third Age. We can talk about the Third Age all day.
Why don't we talk about what Professor Tolkien talked about? The power of fairy stories.
That's right.
The power of secondary worlds. Why don't we talk about that? Why not?
Nicholas Manfredi in the chat room says, so, you guys lied about it to make Amazon speak. How dare you do it again? So,
no, we didn't lie about it.
Cliff, you have to tell me.
I didn't know about it. He was doing that. I didn't know about it.
Cliff, this is total. There's too much happening in the last 7 days to be just coincidence that we've poked the dragon and his eye has opened from under the pile of gold.
His eye has opened and he sees us now.
He sees us and he's ready to have a conversation. Now, Cliff.
But be warned. It is not wise to meddle in the affairs of dragons or wizards. You know that, as Tolkien warned us.
The other bombastic claim that was made on last week's show was about Tom Shippey. Now, as far as I remember, in last September, October, Shippey said that his work had been complete on the current season, and you know what? He was on hiatus like the rest of the writers, supposedly. But he wasn't fired. He was just off the project. We have complete clarity from Tom Shippey now. Let's take a look. Yes. Tom Shippey says...
What is this quoted from?
The Tolkien Estate will insist that the main shape of the Second Age is not altered. Sauron invades Eriador, is forced back by a Númenorian expedition, and returns to Númenor. There he corrupts the Númenorians and seduces them to break the ban of the Valar. All of this,
the course of history, must remain the same.
This is what our show is about. From the man himself, from the lead guy installed by the Tolkien Estate.
Yes.
The most trusted name in Tolkien scholarship has told us exactly what this show is about. And that is about the Lord of the Rings.
I would say he is one of the most trusted because he's one of the most accessible. He actually does, he makes an effort to be accessible and more agreeable to other adaptations of Tolkien in other media.
Yes.
Not all...
He's a little more forgiving than Christopher was.
Not all other academics are really interested in the other pop culture side of the cinema adaptations and the video game adaptations. The academics actually, and rightly so, have, they have a different hill to die on, and that is, protecting the legacy of Tolkien's vast academic works. And that includes, his Beowulf, Middle English studies, and
he's one of the foremost scholars, and he goes to conventions. Yeah. He was at Tolkien 2019 last year, where people kept trying to prod him at the convention, saying, "Hey, what do you know? What can you tell us?" And so he did an interview with several fan sites that were there.
Yep, one of them was a German fan site.
Fan site, yes. And of course, I believe Jim Wirt was there, our old friend Jim.
Yeah.
Jim Wirt from the Wirt Zone was there, and everyone got little comments and little opinions. And as far as I remember, back in September of last year, Tom Shippey had said that his role had been completed on this part of the project, which means he's kind of off of it for now. Mm-hmm. He's on hiatus until they need him again, which is when the writers come back. So, so I just wanted to clarify where we're at. The writers have confirmed they're still on board and they're still writing. Tom Shippey has said, "Hey, I'm on hiatus too, but I might be back. And here's what the show's about." Now, Cliff, I was wondering all week long why was last week's show so bombastic, and why did it have so much farther of input than our normal show, because we've speculated about many things over the course of 7 years that we've been doing the show. But this last week, I was just like shocked. And Cliff, you wouldn't believe, we got tagged on YouTube by one of these things called a YouTube clickbait channel. And I guess there's a whole genre of YouTube creators that sit in their office and speculate about comings and goings
Based upon other people's content.
Based upon other people's content.
Yeah, based on somebody else's content.
This guy, Nerd Roddick, has 200,000 subscribers. His video about our show has 80,000 views, which is more than this podcast even gets. And
ironically,
he has a huge audience, and he wasn't the only one. There were a ton of other of these kind of clickbait YouTube channels that just like picked up on our podcast and run for it. So the lesson for me is that we know people are watching now, and there's an ecosystem of content that needs to be created to fill the void that Amazon has created by not allowing anyone to post things. So we're going to be a lot more careful about the speculation, and we have to table the conversation every time we do this. When we hear something and we hear it from multiple sources, we got to have a conversation about it. But I want to tell you watching and listening at home is that if it's on the website, theonering.net, it's printed as an article on the One Ring. That means it's been verified and validated by editors, fact checkers, researchers, and we take the editorial department very seriously of everything we print, and there's a whole process going on. Cliff, like every article we've posted goes through 2 or 3 hands and eyes to check for language and check for some of this stuff. Now here on the podcast, we have a little bit more fun because we're at Scum and Villainy, and we can have a conversation, and it's like, and you're in the chat room, and we can have this conversation. So if we have a conversation here and it doesn't get posted on the onering.net afterwards, let's just take a breather. Don't post it as fact. We're just talking here. But we will make a better effort of everything.
We'll make a better effort. Yeah, we will, won't we, Justin?
And
say it one more time, Justin, to make sure that the Valar can hear you all the way over there in Valinor.
Now that I know there's an entire content ecosystem hanging on every morsel of energy to draw from, now that we're aware of it. Now, Cliff.
Hey, I'm going to talk to our friends in the chat. Don't worry, Bruno. I'm not slamming it. And I really don't begrudge the man from having concerns about what's happening with one of our favorite, most favorite. Let me emphasize that again, just so that we understand there's generations and generations of people behind my statement. One of our most favoritist stories of all time, not to be messed with, and we all have the same concerns, and we are all in this together. I dig that, and I don't begrudge the man wondering exactly what's going on, but we're also wondering what's going on. Is it, like I said in my tweet in response to all this falderall around this news from last week, is it normal in television production with this much money and this many resources already pulled together? Keep in mind how much effort it takes from a human resources point of view to pull people and infrastructure back together once they leave. Keep that in mind as I say this. Is it normal? And some say yes. I have been corrected online by many of the people talking with us now.
Say it.
It is normal for them to make an episode or two and then stop for a period of time,
pause,
and
review,
then reassess,
revise,
and
recast.
For other people have said specifically, like Ellen and other people here in our live chat, saying it is impossible from a realistic point of view to get equipment, infrastructure, and people back to the island thousands of miles away from everyone else
taking
after
a break
they have left.
is hard.
So
you lose talent.
I had to ask, what is the degree of normalcy here? I know what is normal and not normal for Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens doing a 3-movie set for New Line. I know that litmus test of what's normal. But in terms of television, maybe I'll admit I'm out of my field, out of my depth, as
We
they
all
say.
are. Tolkien is. Tolkien has never been put to television.
So is it now that since the echo chamber of content providers on YouTube is now helping us reiterate our message far and wide. Thank you, Nerdtronic. How about we actually talk about what is normal for them to? Is it normal for them to do this? I still don't honestly know.
As far as I've talked to everybody,
you think this is okay?
This is normal.
And that is why Jennifer is posting on Twitter saying, "I'm here."
They filmed the entire pilot to Game of Thrones, and then they throw it away and recasted the main characters. The Dragon Girl was totally recast. They did the same thing for Watchmen. They filmed an entire pilot for Watchmen, went back, recast some of the things, reshot a bunch of things, and Watchmen was one of the best shows of the last 2 years.
You know who else did that? J.R.R. Tolkien.
He constantly revised.
Do you know how far he got into the Fellowship of the Ring before he scrapped it all? Do you know that Frodo was not his original name?
Yeah.
It was Bingo.
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 Bingo lives.
It was Bingo, not Frodo. But by the time he got the...
Can you imagine?
By the time he got...
Bingo.
Over to the Old Forest and beyond the Old Forest to the Barrow Downs, I think Professor Tolkien said somewhere, famously, that he scrapped many chapters and rewrote everything.
So this process that
I'm amazed at that. So
J.A. Bayona is going through and Amazon's doing is true to Tolkien. Take your time.
Maybe it is.
Work through it.
All right.
And I love it. Now, Cliff, as kind of a mea culpa and to calm everyone's nerves about the writer's room, now that we've confirmed from the head writer that the writers are still there, I thought we would go through the writers of the show that have been announced and talk about their credentials and their bona fides and why you should respect them.
Before we do that, and we will talk about the writers and why we should respect them, I love you, Chelsea. I've been seeing you in the chat room for quite a while now.
Chelsea in the chat room.
He's on a roll. Hi, Chelsea. I love you.
It's great to see you again. Now, Chelsea jumped in the chat and said, has Justin been hosting since I've been gone? And the answer is, no, I haven't. But as soon as I jumped on last week, I caused a bunch of hubbaloo. So please, Chelsea, come back, take my place, and muzzle me. Muzzle my energy, because I caused a bit of a stir. But I will say this. We've got posts from the director, from the writers, from the actors, we got posts from everybody this week in the wake of the controversy. So I'm just going to let that sit. Now, Cliff, I spent a lot of time this week looking at the writers, and here are their bona fides.
The reason, Chelsea, you do have a lot of experience having just filmed a series with Amazon. She just finished doing this great production.
Yes.
I don't even know the name of the show, because I'm not supposed to know. But Chelsea is awesome, and she can give us some insights, because that's what we need.
Into the energy.
Insights. We need to find out what is normalcy, what is the level of normalcy.
Thank you, Chris.
For Amazon Studios doing the show.
Thank you, Chris, for your support in the chat room. Thank you, Arm UK, Princess Toy Nerd. I just appreciate everybody's support. Now, Cliff, are you ready for this? I'm just going to go through this. You might be surprised.
Okay, run it.
This, my friends, is the writer's room for Lord of the Rings.
Let's do it. Whoa.
The current status is the writer's room is on hiatus until April. They're at home. They're on hiatus till until April. Season 1 is completely written. The scripts are locked. They're in place. It will be shooting all those scripts starting in November of this year.
So the hiatus is supposed to end in November, and they'll go back to shooting the remainder of Season 1.
Now, the hiatus ends in April. So from April until November, the writer's room is reassembling to write Season 2 scripts.
Okay, guys, so now...
And the new information we have from Amazon is that the current plan is to shoot all 2 seasons, 20-plus episodes, and 1 long go. They're going to do it like Peter Jackson and film 20 hours of television in 1 straight go.
Wow, 20? Do you know what that deserves? 20 episodes of straight Lord of the Rings television that they're making. That 20 episodes deserves 20 questions. Don't you think?
No spoilers.
Dun, dun, dun.
Stop. Now, Cliff.
No, I'm
look-
ready to announce to the world. By the time you get to the end of this show, come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. At the very end of this broadcast, I will be announcing something big.
special.
Something big is coming your way.
Now,
Pay
Cliff,
attention.
through the process of looking at this,
Okay, so this
the
an-
writers have worked on television shows and won Emmys for shows with Lord of the Rings veteran actors John Noble. The writers have worked with Richard Armitage, Lee Pace, Sean Bean.
Indeed they
in
have.
some of their biggest television series that you would recognize them.
And this news is to...
This is their Lord of the Rings bona fides just from their writing credentials.
Indeed. And
This doesn't speak to their fandom at all. This is who the actors that they have worked with previously.
so
I am excited.
Getting back to our chat person who had been, it was Bruno, I believe, and he was wondering, how can you show pictures of all the happy cast together doing their job, being a cast, at the same time you just reported that all the writers were fired? Well, guess what?
The cast and the writers are at different jobs.
And here's how both things are correct, but we've corrected the record. They weren't fired so as much as they're
Thank
on
you, Crystal.
a lengthy hiatus. Thank you. So the writers are on a lengthy hiatus, and we now know that they've written the entirety, all of it, of season 1. Already written, it's in the box on the shelf that says, "Film me."
And they will film it later this year.
And after Mr. Bayona does the first 1 or 2 episodes, we
They're
really
gonna
don't know.
Get the visual
They're gonna-
style down.
They'll do episodes 3 through 10.
3 through 20.
3 through 20 with whatever next team and the next directors, whoever that will be. File this under greatly intriguing.
Now, Cliff,
isn't this greatly intriguing?
we saw the tweet
I'm
from
intrigued.
Jennifer Hutchinson saying, I can't answer anything about Lord of the Rings other than, yes, I am working on it in the present tense. She is still active. Now, who is Jennifer Hutchinson? Well, you need to follow her on Twitter. That's her handle, Jen Hutchinson. Now,
Yes, Chelsea, I
she
did
is-
on the last week's show, but I'll talk about those Easter eggs again.
we've got
Definitely,
a whole
Chelsea.
bunch of stuff. So,
Yes, yes.
Jennifer Hutchinson is a writer from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. She has written or been the story editor on 8 of the top 10 best episodes ever on Breaking Bad, including being the lead story editor of Ozymandias, which is considered the best episode of television in history. Ozymandias, the Breaking Bad episode, is considered the best hour of television ever filmed in every television critic's list. And if you go to all of the lists of the top 10 best episodes of Breaking Bad's 5 seasons, she wrote or was story editor on 8 of the top 10. Jennifer Hutchinson is the real deal. She has the most experience. This is tentpole television writing right here.
Okay, yes,
and
indeed.
she is in charge. She is head of the writer's room. She has the most seniority, and she has written several episodes of the new Better Call Saul, which just returned to AMC, one of my favorite shows, and she's written 2 of my favorite episodes there. So Jennifer Hutchinson is the person you want to follow because she is the one. Now, one of her best friends that she's come to adore here on Amazon's Lord of the Rings is a writer called Helen Shang.
There's Helen.
And I am super excited about Helen Shang because she comes from Hannibal. Now, Cliff, you remember that we talked about Hannibal early on when Amazon announced the show because we were like, what showrunners do we want working and handling Lord of the Rings?
And because
my short list
included Hannibal.
was Brian Fuller and Hannibal.
Yes.
I banged the drum for a year
For Brian Fuller. And
saying Hannibal is the best show on television. It is dark. It is smart. It respects its audience. It's all those things that Lord of the Rings fans expect. And Helen Shang joining the writer's room, coming from Hannibal, is one of the best people that I could hope.
That's great.
Now, she was part of the writer's room. She worked with Richard Armitage, our own Thorin Oakenshield, on Hannibal.
Yes.
And she was critically important episodes. She wrote critically important episodes that set up the events of Red Dragon.
Oh, that's right.
If anyone knows about the
Red Dragon is the original Hannibal Lecter novel that started it all.
That's right. So she knows how to set up multiple characters, multiple storylines, and she is not afraid to do a full episode that just sets everything up with a huge payoff later.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we want out of Lord of the Rings and the first few episodes. It's exactly what we want. We need good writing that can set up characters that a lot of people are not familiar with.
As long as we have #fidelity to Tolkien.
Yes. Now, Cliff, also I'm really excited about this guy, Jason Cahill.
Oh, yeah, he worked with Lee Pace on that great show, Halt and Catch Fire.
One of my favorite shows of the last 10 years. Halt and Catch Fire was on AMC. I think you can watch it online.
And Fringe.
He was one of the senior writers on Fringe.
God, I love Fringe.
With Denethor.
That brought John Noble and Leonard Nimoy together in one of the best sci-fi trippy shows. It was so good. I loved Fringe.
And Jason Cahill here wrote 3 of the top 10 episodes of *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Good stuff.
*Halt and Catch Fire* was about the history of Silicon Valley and the industry that sprouted around computers.
Indeed.
And of course, Fringe. Everyone who's a Lord of the Rings fan and into fantasy knows Fringe, loves Fringe, and of course, *Sopranos* is the one TV show that kicked off prestige television. If you want to narrow it down to like when did prestige television start, it was with The Sopranos.
I would
and
say
it is so critically important.
I thought it was with Seinfeld, but okay.
It's so incredibly important that they have one of the lead writers of The Sopranos now on Lord of the Rings.
That's fantastic.
This guy basically is prestige television. What an important person. Justin Doble also joins the Lord of the Rings writing room. He comes from the first season of Stranger Things.
Senior writer on Stranger Things.
He was a senior writer of season 1 of Stranger Things. He wrote 3 of the best episodes of the entire series. And the quote from, I believe this was from Bleeding Cool or Bloody Disgusting, says he wrote one of the single most disturbing images of the entire whole series of Stranger Things when Will is getting caught in the Mind Flayer's storm.
Yes.
So
yes,
this
indeed.
guy
that was
knows
from season 2.
This guy knows how to do darkness. And Cliff, we know that the story of Second Age and Sauron and the Rings and Numenor is a very dark story.
It is deeply darkened by the fact that the elves, who we love and admire the most, are the ones who get hurt the worst. They get deceived the worst by Anatar, and they don't realize until the bitter, bitter end that they've been screwed over by this bizarre plan that Sauron thought up, and they couldn't have felt more foolish about it. And what did they do? They immediately took off their 3 elven rings and hidden them away, had them hidden away so that Sauron could never touch them or take them. Exactly,
That's
exactly.
right.
Which is kind of exciting to think of, a Círdan and an Elrond and a Galadriel together in the same show, because I think for the first time ever, I've put into alignment in my mind, the show might be built around the 3 bearers of the elven rings of power. The 3 rings.
We just talked about that at the top of the show. Now,
I know.
Cliff,
but I want to reiterate it because it's one of the coolest things that just blew my mind today. Was realizing that's a damn good way to build the show.
That's right.
Build your
and
show
it's
around
exactly
the
what we
bearers
want
of the 3
It's
elven
exactly
rings.
what we want to see.
That's awesome.
Now, Cliff,
if that were true,
we've shown the writers of Lord of the Rings come from The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Hannibal. These are all very, very adult and dark shows. So I was surprised to learn that writer Stephanie Folsom wrote the story of Toy Story 4.
That just won the Oscar recently.
And she is a writer on Star Wars Resistance, the animated show, which just wrapped up its whole series. Resistance was really fun. I enjoyed it. And she wrote one of the key episodes called Secrets and Holograms, which is about which built upon the lore of Star Wars. She was instrumental in the writer's room of Star Wars Resistance, adhering to the Star Wars lore, growing it, and finding places to interject a lot of it into the show.
So that means Stephanie is the kind of writer who has experience working with another huge powerhouse intellectual property.
Star Wars, yes.
And now, but she's in a different powerhouse intellectual property, and it's Middle-earth, which has a very different pedigree.
And she comes from 2 animated shows, Star Wars Resistance and Toy Story 4. So what a great
Right.
balance to all of
How about that?
the dark shows of fallen dark heroes. And now she comes from Star Wars. Now, Cliff, this was interesting. Stephanie Folsom comes from Star Wars.
Oh, God.
I tried to look up this guy or girl, Glenise Mullins. No professional writing credits. Amazon has hired a writer that has never written anything that's been made. Never written anything for Hollywood.
Geez, then there's even more of the reason why they could have hired,
Cliff, you're not even in the writer's room.
I'm not even in the writer's room, and I've never written a single episode of television.
Cliff, you wrote the documentary Ringers, Lord of the Fans. You've published multiple books.
I've written many.
The People's Guide to J.R.R. Tolkien. Like, you are accomplished.
I've written a play and produced it. I've written a film and sold it, and I've written books and articles and gotten them printed, but I've never, ever been in the writer's room. But that didn't stop Glenise Mullins from getting a job.
So Glenise Mullins has no writing credits. We know nothing about him or her. But one of the most important people that Amazon put on Lord of the Rings is Brian Cogman, the third in command of
so funny.
Game of Thrones, the Mythology Master, the Lord Master, the Emmy winner.
Dan says she's on IMDb. All right, let's look her up.
And he is responsible, out of all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, Brian Cogman is responsible for 5 of the top 10 best episodes. In fact, he's
the most controversial episodes ever.
He is responsible for the only episode that everyone can agree was good in season 8. So Brian Cogman. Now, Cliff, this is stressful because the first thing that fans said when Amazon acquired Lord of the Rings was, "Don't make this Game of Thrones." So, how do you feel about the third head of Game of Thrones, right in the writers' room for Lord of the Rings?
That is exactly what everyone. I wasn't the only one. I was a lot of fans within our wide arena of fandom said, "Please don't make Middle Earth look and smell and feel like Game of Thrones." We all said that. We all agreed
Brian
with that.
Cogman is the biggest concern right now for all of Tolkien fandom.
Here's the writing credits.
He is the one person that is the biggest question mark and the biggest concern. And I wish Brian would just come and sit here and talk Tolkien with us. Don't talk about the Second Age. Don't talk about anything that you're doing with the show. Just talk about the history of fantasy and the importance of these fantasy stories to society.
You know what?
We're very nervous about you, Brian.
Hold on. There's a difference between being dark and being look, fidelity to Tolkien is still the prevalent thing in my mind because Tolkien himself said that he purged his fantasy world of things that were gross.
Yes.
Purged of the gross. That was his phrase, quote, unquote.
And when we talk about purge of the
gross,
he purposely removed anything that was about, like even
includes
pissing on the sidewalk.
That includes taking a piss on the sidewalk or defecating, going to the bathroom, picking your nose, things. Or
descriptions of the blade entering the body and what it does to internal organs.
Any sexualized depiction purged out of Tolkien's universe. We have not ever, not in 6 films from Peter Jackson, and not from all the 3 animated feature films from both Bakshi and the Rankin Bass team, nothing's ever been sexualized. Nothing's ever been gross, like, castrating people the way that happens to characters in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Now,
it might happen in the world, but we don't talk about it. We don't show it. It's not important to the story at hand.
But it was important to Tolkien to not have it. And if it was important to Professor Tolkien to have his world depicted through that filter.
So how do you balance the importance to remember that the Second Age is a time of decadence and vice?
There is something to be said about the R-rated version of the mother effing Hobbit that ended up being R-rated under Peter's hands.
Right.
When the extended edition came out, even that was over.
So
that
how
was
do
just,
you
it was over the
reconcile
top.
your opinion of what you just said of what Tolkien was trying to do with his stories and the Second Age, which is full
Okay.
of decadence and vice?
There are things that happen in the Second Age that will freak anybody out who's only read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Yes, huge,
Okay.
huge Game of Thrones style stuff happening.
Human sacrifice.
Yep.
On the level of Mel Gibson's Apocalypto and his depiction of the Aztecs.
Mm-hmm.
Human sacrifice in Numenor to be like Satan worshipping, Sauron worshipping type of human sacrifice. It is ghoulish in the extreme, and it is beyond what Lord of the Rings fans are going to ever understand. We're talking about devil worship, Sauron worship, and human sacrifice. When the Numenorians go down the toilet, it goes very, 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 very dark. But that does not give anybody from Game of Thrones' point of view to come into the writer's room and add in that George Martin flair to things. It's still Tolkien, after all. Do you see what I'm getting at? I think I've said enough.
I think there's a
I've
balance
said
to be had.
enough
Now, Cliff.
without overstepping it. But
So if Brian Cogman is rounding out the writers' room, there are only 2 people remaining in the Lord of the Rings writers' room, and they are in charge of the show. There's been a lot of Twitter threads this week about what a showrunner does. Who is a showrunner? A showrunner hires the directors.
yes, Leith Skilling is correct in saying that story is from Unfinished Tales, but we have yet to see how much, if any, of Unfinished Tales is currently licensed by Amazon under the terms of this new deal.
That's
because
right.
it might actually be the case, and we don't know it yet. And by the way,
I've
how-
heard
how can-
I've heard that they do have the rights to Unfinished Tales, but not Silmarillion.
How can the Numenorian downfall be depicted without all those things happening?
They have to.
And it all has to happen after the forging of the Rings of Power anyways.
right.
So we've got 5 seasons to fill. Let's see how far down the rabbit hole they get to go, if
So
we're lucky.
all 5 seasons are going to be managed by a pair of guys that are called the showrunners. They hire the directors, so they could hire 1 director to do the whole show. They can hire 10 directors to do 10 episodes.
That's correct.
They are in charge of the writers' room. Their names are J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. They are the ultimate persons in charge.
They
have
are.
no produced writing credits, no script that has ever been made, no production experience, never produced a movie, a show, or short film, and they have no known history with Tolkien fandom. We can't find anything about them having a registered account on the OneRing.net. We have no public pronouncements of
They
their
had-
passion for Lord of the Rings.
Correct, but they had only made their name and their reputation in Hollywood for having the most famous script that was literally the most famous unproduced script.
For Star Trek.
For Star Trek, yes.
Star Trek ain't got nothing on Lord of the Rings.
That's true. I'm not knocking the Star Trek
So
phenomenon, but
what are their bona fides? We don't know, but
Yeah,
Amazon has trusted them with $1.5 billion,
Yes.
20 episodes, 2 seasons, and they've assigned Brian Cogman to help these novices navigate the
Navigate
most expensive TV show in history, just as Brian Cogman had helped Benioff and Weiss
that's true.
make Game of Thrones a cultural moment.
He started off working as like some intern guy getting coffee for David Benioff,
And then he proved
And then
his
all
quality.
of a sudden, Brian Cogman was like the ultra nerd in the room, and ended up winning an Emmy years later.
Yes.
So hey, you know what? Dream a dream of me. Open that golden ticket. Charlie, you can get into the factory if you're a good boy. But here's the thing. It strikes me as incredibly beautiful to give an untried, untested talent a chance.
That's right.
Like these untalented young gentlemen, Payne and McKay. It's a beautiful, generous effort, maybe, because I would want that for myself or anybody else who would not be super experienced, and they might get a chance to break ranks and go up to
But how would you- how-
But then again, the other side of me is rather cynical and says, why would you pick these people when they have no history of Tolkien fandom or connection, and they've never produced anything that we have in front of us as a viable demonstration of their creativity.
And if Amazon wants to hire the best directors and the best writers, how are you going to hire someone like J.A. Bayona, who did Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom,
Yes.
and many of the just
And A Monster
wonderful
Calls.
shows, and A Monster Calls,
Yes.
and many wonderful shows? Who are they to tell their director what to do? And who
Yeah.
are these guys who've never produced anything to showrun and be above the director who has all this experience doing tentpole entertainment? It's cause for concern. It just makes us nervous. The thing that we are used to is Guillermo del Toro jumping on our message boards and saying, "Hi guys, I want to introduce myself. I'm Guillermo. I'm making The Hobbit, and I'm a
Yes.
fan like you." And Peter Jackson reaching out to the fans and saying, "I'm Peter Jackson. I'm a huge fan. I'm just as a big a fan as everybody, and I want to do right." And the first thing that Peter Jackson shot was a shot-for-shot remake of Ralph Bakshi.
That's
So
right.
we have a ton
Yep.
of bona fides, passionate Lord of the Rings fans, and nobody in this writer's room, we don't know anything about their passion for Tolkien.
Hello, good to see you, Dave Gentry. It is wonderful to see you in the chat room on Facebook. What's the news? Are the writers really gone? Well, the writers, as we just said, you can rewind the tape if you want to go back. The writers had finished creating all of season 1 of the new Lord of the Rings series. They have only produced the first episode. They're filming it actively right now. The writing team is on hiatus, probably for the rest of the year. Then they're going to come back and finish writing season 2. The plan is for them to film all the remainder of season 1 and season 2
At the end of the year,
at the end,
into next year.
beginning at the end of 2020 and going
it
well into 2021. Do you know why? Because when it's November and December here,
It's summer.
it's summer, and you
In
have
New
the
Zealand.
greatest length of the day for more hours of daylight photography
Now, Cliff,
down in
if
New
it
Zealand.
took Peter Jackson 2 years to film 12 hours worth of movies, how long do you think it's going to take to film 20 hours of Lord of the Rings television? They're going to be in production for potentially over 2 years.
Yep, I would imagine so.
So we
I
can
would
wait
imagine so.
that long. Take your time, be precious. Now, a recap of everything we talked about. Again, we
So,
got confirmation from
no.
the lead writer that she is working on Lord of the Rings. They are on hiatus. They reassemble in the writer's room in April. Right now, they're just filming the pilot script, and they're going to
Yes.
keep shooting later this year. We've got pictures of Simon Merrells posting pictures of what he's reading, which is chapters of the Silmarillion that talk about Círdan, the shipwright.
Círdan,
And
the
the guy
shipwright.
in the middle, Simon Merrells, looks like a rugged Círdan, the shipwright, one of the Elven ring bearers. We have
Rugged.
potentially the guy on the right is
No
young
one-
Elrond,
no one-
another one of the young Elven ring bearers.
Hello, Dave Gentry. No, they're on hiatus. And about the Tolkien scholar, yes. Tom Shippey has said publicly in the recent past months somewhere that he is no longer working with Amazon Studios.
Well, the writer's room is waiting to be reassembled, and
So
his
we-
role is really to police the writer's room and make sure that nothing's in the script that isn't true to Tolkien.
Well, maybe. I'd been hearing rumors that he was working most closely with the development of the map that was given
But that
to
was
us.
in June. That was
Yeah.
way back.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
The Tolkien Estate assigned Tom Shippey to represent their interests.
Well, great question, Scott Weir. Why all the cloak and dagger stuff, though? Why are they not forthcoming? He's saying, basically, are they really trying to keep things
Well,
quiet?
are they being are they
Or is
being
it possible
cloak
there's
and
no one at
dagger?
the
Because
wheel?
look at this picture of the entire cast
There's no one at the
assembled
wheel.
together. This, my friends, is the entire cast of Lord of the Rings: The Second Age.
And they are filming right
And
now.
they are filming
They are
right
filming
now.
right now as
That
we
is a
speak.
beautiful cast. On the right, we have young Galadriel, and going left, we have potentially young Elrond. We've got Sauron possibly in the mix. We've got Círdan,
You
the
think
shipwright, in the
Maxim
mix.
Baldry might be a young,
Who-
quote unquote. I have to stop using that.
Who knows? And
That
then,
damn euphemistic expression.
And then,
You're
of
not going to
course-
get away with it anymore.
and then, of course, we got a
Young
photo from the
Elrond.
set
Jesus, he's thousands of years
of
old.
J.A. Bayona. We've got our first official photo where he describes the lighting on the tree of a tree of Numenor in the Second Age that reminded him of a Miyazaki cloud.
He didn't say it was a tree of Numenor, did he?
They are shooting.
But we know they're shooting.
They are shooting about the Second Age. We know
we don't
based
know
on the
where,
map.
they might be filming somewhere in Eriador on the mainland.
Did that
we-
exist in the Second Age?
Of course it did.
Okay.
Like I just explained to you at the beginning of the show, Beleriand was sunk under the waves after the tumult of the War of Wrath. And the coastline of the Blue Mountains, which was somewhere in the middle of the continent of Beleriand, ended up becoming the new West Coast.
Okay.
It was the whole new West Coast because the ocean went all the way up to there and stopped. And then that's where the Grey Havens came in, where there was a break in the northern and southern Blue Mountains, and the water came in. It was the Gulf of Loon. That's where the Grey Havens was. Who was it who founded the Grey Havens? We get
Cliff.
back to Círdan, the shipwright.
Now,
it
Cliff,
was Círdan who founded the Grey Havens.
Thank you for
So,
being a
how
part
about that?
of this conversation. The last couple weeks have been, the last week has been incredibly exciting. It's great to see all the posts from the directors, the showrunners, the writers. Brian Cogman is back on Twitter, coincidentally, after our explosive show.
Be nice to him.
So be nice to him. Do not criticize.
Be nice to yeah, you know what?
The writers are going to write. They have the bona fides. They've worked with Lord of the Rings actors before. We love everything that they've written before.
We have taken a delightful look at their curriculum vitae. I think that's plural for Latin. Anyways, and we've taken a look at all the stuff they've done. So be nice to them on Twitter, but also don't be afraid to hold them under the task of hashtag fidelity to Tolkien. Don't be afraid to say, Jennifer Hutchinson, Brian Cogman, we're very curious to know, how are you going to represent fidelity to Tolkien's world in your show?
Yes.
Because if they were here with us, it's the same thing that I would ask to their face here.
And
how you plan on doing this? That's
what
I want to know.
To take the show out, let me tell you what fidelity to Tolkien is. Now, Cliff, we found a video that you can find on our Twitter and Facebook of Viggo Mortensen speaking fluently in 10 different languages because he's just a man of all ages.
Ah, yes.
And I found a video. This is fidelity to Tolkien. This is Viggo Mortensen recently still singing The Laments.
That is so awesome. That's
his fidelity to Tolkien. That man 20 years later can still sing the
20
coronation.
20 years later, Viggo Mortensen is singing his coronation song
in Quenya.
In Quenya, which is Elvish Latin.
Yes.
By the way, the Latin of Elvish. How about that?
Yes.
He's actually singing that song. Oh, you know what?
That's fidelity to Tolkien. This is Torn Tuesday. We're here every week at 5 p.m. Pacific. Next week is St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to save my green donut. Until then, thank you for the donut. We want to break bread with you, Brian Cogman.
Yeah, come break bread with all of us. Jennifer Salke, Brian Cogman, Jennifer Hutchinson, J.D. Payne, Patrick McKay, J.A. Bayona, all the people down in New Zealand working
do the best work of your career on behalf of Tolkien and on behalf of the fans. Cliff, we'll see you next week wearing all green for St. Patrick's Day, like Legolas Greenleaf.
Come help us understand more about your wonderful project. Come and see us, and you can follow us on all social media at theonering.net. Me, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at QuickBeam2000.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Until next time, buenos noches y buenas suertes.